For decades, we've all heard the same thing, right? To lose weight, you've got to eat less and exercise more. It's this simple calorie counting formula. But if it's really that simple, why does it fail for so many of us? In this breakdown, we're going to look at why that old advice is, well, just wrong, and we'll unpack a much more powerful way of thinking about it that all comes down to a single hormone. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, just let that statement sink in for a second. It's from metabolic scientist Dr. Benjamin Bikman. What he's basically saying is that without the hormone insulin, you could eat, tens of thousands of calories a day and not gain a single pound of fat. Now, that's a wild idea because it completely flips the whole weight loss conversation on its head. It suggests the real key isn't how many calories we're eating, but what our bodies are actually doing with those calories. All right, so first up, let's talk about the big problem with just focusing on calories. If you've ever been on a strict diet, you know the drill. You cut your calories, you feel totally miserable, and any weight you manage to lose just seems to find its way right back. Well, it turns out there's a very real biological reason for that. And when you put these two models side by side, wow, the difference is night and day. The calorie control model is all about deprivation. You're basically in a constant fight with your own body's survival instincts. But the insulin control model, that's about regulating your hormones. It's about working with your body, not against it. And instead of your metabolism slowing down because it thinks it's starving, you can actually get a real metabolic advantage. And this right here is the absolute heart of the problem. The number one reason calorie counting fails comes down to one simple, powerful word: hunger. Think about the contestants on The Greatest Loser. They lose an incredible amount of weight by starving themselves, but almost every single one of them gains it all back. And why is that? It's because at the end of the day, hunger always wins. You just can't fight your own biology forever. So, if calories aren't the main villain here, then what is? Well, that brings us to the hormone that is the real boss of our metabolism. As Dr. Bikman calls it, it's the one to rule them all. It's time to meet insulin. Think of insulin as the traffic cop for all the energy in your body. After you eat something, insulin shows up and starts telling all your cells what to do with that fuel. And its main job, its default setting, is to yell, "Hey, store this energy," and store it as fat. So when your insulin levels are high, your body is in fat storage mode. The fat-burning machinery is literally switched off. And this is where things get really tricky, because it creates this nasty, vicious cycle. You eat a bunch of carbs or sugar, and your insulin spikes way up to get all that sugar out of your blood and into storage ASAP. But that causes the available energy in your blood to just plummet. Your brain, which is a total energy hog, suddenly panics. It sends out this emergency signal that says, "I'm starving." And boom, just an hour or two after you ate, the cravings are back with a vengeance. And this is such a perfect way to understand the core problem. You could have enough energy stored in your fat cells to last for months, but high insulin acts like a key, locking the doors to that energy. Your brain can't get to it. So even though your body has tons of fuel on board, your brain thinks you're in the middle of a famine and it screams at you to eat more. It's a crazy biological mix-up. Okay, so how do we break out of this trap? How do we finally unlock all that energy we have stored away? Well, the key is to get insulin levels down. Because when you do that, your body can finally tap into this amazing superfuel. The moment insulin goes down, it's like a domino effect of awesome things. Your body can finally tap into its fat stores and start burning them for energy. Your liver starts turning that fat into these little molecules called ketones. And get this, it turns out the brain actually prefers running on ketones. When your brain is fueled by ketones, hunger just kind of fades away. And studies even show your metabolism can speed up. And we're not just talking about weight loss here. The benefits for your brain are incredible. Your brain just loves this stuff. Research shows that being in a ketogenic state can do wonders for your neurology. It can help control anxiety, improve symptoms of depression, and even boost your focus and thinking. It's really about feeling better, not just looking different.
So you might be wondering, how fast can you actually get these ketones into your system? Well, in the original material, the host does this really cool little experiment using what's called an exogenous ketone product. That's just a fancy way of saying drinkable ketones. First, he does a quick finger prick to see where he's at. His baseline ketone level is 0.3, which is super low, pretty typical for anyone eating a standard diet.
Okay, then he takes just one shot of this ketone supplement. This way, his liver doesn't have to do any work. The ketones can just get absorbed directly. And check this out. Only 30 minutes later, his ketone level has tripled to 0.9.
That's a huge jump, putting him right into a state of ketosis. It just goes to show you how quickly this fuel can be made available for your brain and body.
All right, so the science is super cool, but what does this actually look like in real life? How do we put this all into action? Let's walk through a simple daily plan based on Dr. Bickman's own recommendations.
So the whole game plan here is pretty simple. Keep your insulin low for most of the day. So first, for breakfast and lunch, you're aiming for very few carbs. Focus on protein and fat to keep you satisfied. Second, make lunch your biggest meal of the day. Third, try to get some resistance training in. And then for dinner, you can relax a bit and have a flexible meal with your family. And this last one is maybe the most important. When dinner's done, you're done eating. No more snacking. This gives your body a nice long break to let insulin stay down.
And look, this isn't just theory. People are getting amazing results with this. This comment from one of the viewers really just says it all, doesn't it? In just 68 days of cutting out the main drivers of insulin, sugar, and flour, this person completely turned things around. They said they haven't felt this good since they were a teenager. It's not about starving, it's about switching your fuel.
Okay, now, before we finish up, I have to share a really important warning. This is a powerful framework, for sure, but I have to be clear, this is not medical advice, and there are some very rare situations where this approach could actually be dangerous.
This is a really scary but really important story from a viewer. Her husband tried a low-carb diet, and just 8 hours later, he was unconscious. It turned out he had a very rare type of tumor, called an insulinoma, that was just constantly pumping out huge amounts of insulin. For him, cutting out carbs was life-threatening because his insulin was always sky-high, which pushed his blood sugar to dangerously low levels.
Now, as terrifying as that story is, it actually proves the entire point of this whole breakdown, right? It shows that insulin's control over your body's energy system is absolute. It really is the master switch. And just understanding that is the first step to taking back control of your own metabolic health.
So what's the bottom line here? For so long, we've been playing the wrong game. We've been obsessing over every single calorie, fighting a losing battle against our own hunger, when the real key was managing a single hormone all along. So the real question is, are you ready to flip the switch?